So tonight is day 4, and day 4 making our Seminole cushion is just the finalised bit, the final bit where we insert the zip. And this time we're putting tabs on our zip, a bit like a pouch, to make it super easy. And also with the tabs on the end, it's better for the seams, it's better for the corner seams. They don't, the zip doesn't go into the seam and make them a little bit curvy. We still sort of maintain our points. Yeah. So I hope you're all ready. Again, what we'll do is we'll take this really slowly. What you will need is, now in my instructions earlier I said to you needed a 15.5-inch zip. Now what I'm going to tell you, I'm going to slightly change that. If your cushion is bigger than mine, which I know some people's are, then I hope you haven't cut, because your zip should be longer. Okay, I hope you had sort of that thought that 15.5 wouldn't work with 2-inch tabs either end. If you have cut your 15.5-inch zip and you want to use it, then I'll talk to you about another way of inserting the zip afterwards, but you might have to remind me. I might have to look at the comments to remind me, because I don't want anybody to waste any zippage if they've already cut it. If your cushion front, if you are going to make a cushion, is about the same as mine, what I would say is this: measure the bottom of your cushion, okay? Because that's whatever your bottom is. Your bottom may be, let me get this. Right, so your bottom, I've got a piece of, look at that, piece of African wax fabric. So your bottom might be here, yeah, that this bit or this bit, whichever. But you might decide that you want it that way, in which case your zip perhaps will go along there. I'll let you decide, because you know what, we're all free to make our own decisions here, funnily enough. Don't fall. So whatever that width is, let's just say it's 16 inches. Yours might be 14, 12, 18, whatever. Let's say it's 16 inches. I want you to cut your zip at 15. So I want your zip to be 1 inch shorter in the measurement across than your cushion is now. Okay, not when it's stitched together, but now. So mine is about 16.25. I could take the 1/4 inch off, but I don't see why I should. So I've cut mine at 15.25, okay, and that gives us a little bit of leeway. So that's the main thing, really. Like I say, if you have cut 15.5 and that's nowhere near going to fit your cushion, like I say, I will try to remember to talk to you about how you can work with that. I think that's the best way. Sorry, I've got flippy hair. Well, we will crack on, because we've got a little bit to do, not huge amounts. So I'm going to put you, sorry, I've got fluffy hair. I'm going to put you on the overhead so you can see what I've done so far. So this is my cushion front. There's obviously my zip, and we've got 2 lots of 2-inch squares. I've cut them quite roughly, actually, so don't tell me off for my poor cutting, because I know it is. I did them with scissors. So you want 2 of these 2-inch squares, okay, and obviously we're going to cut them down when we get to put them on the zip, but don't cut them now. Regardless of the size, Lizzie, the zip should be 1 inch shorter. Correct, Glynis, correct. That's the best thing, because when you put the tabs in, hold on, let me get my cushion again. When you put the tabs in, got threads that end, let's go that end. Can you see it makes it a really nice corner. It doesn't make it so the zip goes up the side of the seam there, which it could well do, and it adds quite a lot of bulk. Because we're putting a tab on like we would with a pouch, it actually gives you a nice neat finish. Okay, so 1 inch shorter is great. I must get rid of those threads. I've seen them before and I keep thinking I must get rid of them. There we are, so let's pop that back. Yes, 1 inch shorter is good. Okay, so there's my zip. There's my lovely little squares. Obviously you saw me put this in last night and I've given it a bit of a press so it's nice and crispy. So don't forget, please, 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 double please, triple please, press your cushion fronts. Okay, now a lot of you said that your cushions have come out a little bit smaller. Possibly your seam allowances aren't 1/4 inch, and I bet anything you like, you may not have ironed your pieces as you've gone along, which I can't stress enough, that especially with patchwork, especially with such complicated patchwork, you need to press every single stage. I know we all get a bit sort of blasé, let's say, but that's one of the most important things that you can ever do when you're doing patchwork, because you can lose a millimetre on each seam by not pressing properly and having little pleats here, little folds. Okay, so that would be great. So I've also, very roughly, as you can see, there's a reason for that, I have cut out my back, which actually could do with a better steam, a better iron than that. I was a bit quick with doing this earlier on, and I wish I had spent a bit more time on it. I'll just finger press that bit out. And I have added that with the sort of guidance of you guys yesterday. I decided to add my Seminole band that I made. I thought it would be a shame not to. So yeah, so I've used that for the cushion back, and the zip's not going to go anywhere near this. The zip's going to go down the bottom here. Okay, so what we need to do is, obviously, the first thing we need to do is the zip tab ends. So let's just pop these bits out of the way and bring this back. And this is such a good way of doing the ends of zips, regardless of whether you're making a cushion like this or whether you are making a pouch, and that is to put 2 squares over each end, right sides together. So and this is something I do quite a lot really. Now, because this is a zip and you've got layers, it will take a clip, okay, because as much as I love clips, sometimes they're not appropriate. They're too heavy for some things, but with this it's fine. So what you're going to do there is you're going to stitch 1/4 inch on the end. So what you've got is a zip sandwich. So you've got the right side of your zip facing you, you've got your square underneath, and you've got your square on top, and you're just making a zip sandwich, which is probably a lot tastier than my ham sandwich or my ham roll. Anyway, let's not talk about fish and chips. So you're just folding those over the top. Okay, you're layering up. So that's what it looks like. Nothing complicated. I can't remember who it was, but somebody who's been watching, I truly can't remember her name, has said she's never put a zip in before. So this is such a good little lesson in making the ends of a zip neat, but also to give you a little bit of, this sounds going to sound silly, a bit of floppiness at the end of your zip, because when you go to stitch it into seams, you won't have the zip teeth getting in the way, okay, and making it bulky. Right, so hopefully everybody understands that, and I know a lot of you have done this already. Okay, so let's just move the machine in. I've got lots of bits and bobs on the mat. Fortunately, oh yeah, you can see. Look, the zips, my fabric. It's on the mat, so it's trailing with me. Let's just kick it out of the way. There, now I'm nice and neat. Oh, there's Millie. 7 o'clock, see? There we are. Okay, so there's my little zippy sandwich. So we're literally going to do 1/4 inch along there. And if you want to draw that line, you draw it. And go from one edge to the other. If you want to, you could top stitch this when we're done, but you're going to see such the smallest amount, I wouldn't waste your thread or your time. So with this other end, we're going to do the same again. Okay, little zip sandwich. And you can see I badly cut my fabric, but I knew I had, because all of this gets trimmed and neatened off, so, but I have to give you a measurement, don't I? So there we are. Super job, super job. So you can see what I've done. I've just folded that back, and like I said, if you want to, you can top stitch along there if you want. Right, there we are. So those are my two ends. So hopefully you'll have all done that by now. Okay, so I'm going to put the zip in my, well, bottom or top, it makes no difference, does it, on this edge here. If you want to, you can trim this back. It will give you, certainly give you an eye on where you're supposed to be stitching. So let's do that. Sometimes, mainly I don't. I'm a bit lazy, I must admit. So let's just give that a trim. Now you'll find that this will be too long for your cushion front, and this is why I'm stitching it on the front first. Okay, so, and you see we just trimmed it. Okay, if you want, like I say, if you want to stitch this, feel free. And then we'll do the other side. But like I say, I often say I don't normally trim these back, but as you're watching, I'm trying to be good. Doesn't happen often. Take full advantage. And there. And the scissors I use are Karen K. Buckley. I won't use anything else. They're absolutely superb. Karen K. Buckley. I think I've got nearly all of her scissors now. And again, they're not the cheapest. Okay, so what we need to do is find the centre. So we want the centre of our zip, and we want the centre of our cushion. And you can see that our zip and zip tabs are far too long. That's good. But you don't want them to, you want the seam that you've just created to be, you know, at least 3/4 of an inch inside your cushion. Okay, that's just a given. So with this, we're just going to fold it in half. Oops, bend it if you can. Doesn't really want to. And then I'm just going to put a pen mark in. So that's our centre. Okay. And then with the cushion, we'll do exactly the same. Now do be careful when you're handling your cushion front, because all of these edges are desperate to come apart. They're all bias, and none of them have got a back stitch on. Okay, none of them. So they're very vulnerable. Abigail says, I'm getting some very high quality cushions here. Don't expect anything less, young lady. So I'm giving it a little squidge look with my nail. So I've got a little crease, look at that, it's gorgeous. So now I'm going to do a mark. And obviously when you press it, because you know you're going to press it, that obviously your marks will come out, okay? And I wouldn't bother putting a notch in. I wouldn't bother. Now the seam allowance for this, although the rest of the cushion will be 1/4 inch, I would still aim for about 3/8 for your zip, okay? If you're uncomfortable with that, because I know some people are uncomfortable with doing things a little bit different what you should do. If you want to stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance so it matches the other sides, then just be aware that you're going to either have a bigger gap between your zip teeth and coming out, or you're going to have to overhang your cushion front a wee bit further into your zip. I mean, that probably doesn't make a jot of sense, but anyway, let's just turn it over like so. So I'm going to try and show this to you, what I just said. So if we stick to the 1/4 inch, which let's just say is about there. Okay, when I flip that back, you're going to have a fair bit of zip showing. Okay, that might not suit. If you were to go right up to the edge, because some people really like it to be really tight to the teeth. There, see, like that. Yeah. Then that is nowhere near. In fact, I was going to measure. Let's see if this ruler is. So we're looking at, well, 1, 2, well, that's 3/8. So you want to go a little bit between the 1/4 and the 3/8. That's my personal opinion. Between the 1/4 and the 3/8. I think 3/8 is too far. I really do. Sorry, you got my head shot in there. If you wanted your seam allowance to be 1/4 inch, and let's flip this over, you'll need to put the edge of your zip in there like that. So do you see? So your zip edge is sticking out basically, and that way you'll get your 1/4 inch seam in there. Depends how pedantic you are. It really does. I'm just going to, you know, line the seams up and just stitch it basically. To be honest, when you've got the zip in and you've got the zip teeth, your cushion's still going to be square or thereabouts. So let's just pin the middle. And of course you can pin all the way along. And obviously we need to get past our zip slider. We'll talk about that when we get to it if you haven't put a zip in before. I'm being jolly careful here. I'm actually going to stitch on this side. I ought to put the pins on the other side really. What we want to do is just eyeball our ends here. Can you see that this end is a little bit further out than that end? And you think, well, how's that possible when we've found the centre of the zip? Well, you know what? Anything's possible. It's called human error. So it's a tad. It's a tad. I'm putting my zips on the right side now. So let me just pop the pin in. I just realised I had the pin in. I was trying to move it. What a twit. Okay, in fact that does look okay. That does look okay now. So let's just pop this pin in. You know I'm going to take them out as soon as I take it to the machine. So there's our zip on one side. So there's nothing complicated about this at all. If you've never done a zip before, then this is the ideal time to have a little go. If you've got a foot like that, that's great. Whatever foot you have that matches your machine will work, obviously. And what will happen is, if I demonstrate on my zippage, what happens is, if you stitch so the right side of the zip is facing you, in other words, we'll stitch from this side because the right side of the zip will be facing us. What happens is that the foot of your machine, your zipper foot, can you see how nicely it sits against the zipper teeth? And when you look at yours, it will be stepped up and stepped across to the left, and it will sit on top of the teeth, and it's meant to. That's how it works. So if I just tip that up, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. You know what, I'm going to show you on the side because that's sometimes better. Here we go. So how about, I think you can see that now. Can you see that little step up there? Well, that's the bit that can sit on your zipper teeth, okay, and then this side of your foot hugs the zipper teeth, and it absolutely does not jump over or break your needle or do anything daft. It follows the zipper teeth, so sometimes you really don't have to do a lot with a zipper foot because it does it for you. So right sides together. So I'm looking at the top of there's my zipper teeth there. Just going to lay my fabric down. Now do be careful because, like I said a gazillion times, we're working with bias. So I just want you to feel the end of your teeth there. So you're on one little bit for about 1/2 inch or so. You're not going to have any zipper teeth to guide you, but I just want you to just relax and let it do its thing. I'm just going to find my zipper sliders up there. So just keep all your layers together, take your time, let the foot be guided by the teeth. See if you can get the teeth to sit, the zipper foot to sit on the teeth. It's not always possible, but just run it along, it'll be absolutely fine. It won't mind at all. And if you want to use quilter's tape to help you, then do that. It's pushed because I haven't put my walking foot on, it's pushed my fabric along, but I'll just let that bit go. This is where you perhaps need to pin a bit more. Okay, so we've come to the zipper slider just down here. Okay, so all we need to do is push that past the zipper foot, and the best way to do that is actually on the side of the machine. So you swivel the whole thing around, and you've only got this little bit for the slider to go past instead of all of this. I mean, what is that, about 1.25 inches, and this is about 1/2 inch, or if that. And it is easier. I don't think my machine ever sits as high as it could do when I've got my zipper foot on, but your machine should. We just now I'm being completely cack-handed with it. So it's like a magic trick, isn't it? Let me raise my foot up. That's it. I think I've got it now. Anyway, that's the theory, and it always works, obviously, until tonight. There we go. Yes, you try it with your machine. I promise you it'll work. Oh dear. Couldn't see the wood for the trees then. Gosh, it's absolutely pouring down here. Okay. I can hear it on my windows. So there we are. There's one side done. Right, so if you wanted to, you could top stitch that. I'm not going to worry about it. Obviously it could do with a nice press, but we can do that in a minute. Now we're going to stitch the back piece on, the back piece of the cushion. And although I cut it that bit bigger, I think, actually I want to make sure that stays in the middle. So let's just do right sides together. I'm just going to measure and make sure that stays in the middle, and bring that over. I might have to trim that just to make sure that that sits nicely, because obviously, although I've cut it bigger, I want my pattern to be still in the centre. Do you see what I mean? I want this to be in the centre of that. So I'm just going to look at my cushion, make sure that's sitting nicely, and then I'm just going to trim that away. There we go. Let's get past my zip slider. Fingers out of the way if you're doing anything like this. There we go. That's much better. And hopefully that'll be about square on. Okay, so what we're going to do now is pop the zip on the other side of our cushion. So again, it's right sides facing you. Okay, and the right side of your back down onto the zip. So let's find the middle again, just to make sure we've got it correctly positioned. Give it a little squidge. Move that pesky slider out of the way. Pop that on the top, and we can just pin that in place. And as you know, mine's a little bit bigger. Okay, that's going to go all the way along. So all we're going to do now is, because this is wrong side down here, we're just going to flip that over, and this time we're going to stitch on the on this side of the fabric again, just to make sure we, where are we, install that properly. Well, honestly, I must be being so stupid tonight. Let's put the right side of the zip down. There we go. So when I pull that back, you can see the zipper installed. And we're going to stitch along here. Millie's in my stuff again, honestly. There we go, just a minute. Millie, get out. Go on, off you go. Go and find something to play with. Go on, off you go. Good girl. Oh, she's saying, you must be joking. I want to eat something out of your room. I shall call John. One moment, I'm going to just give him a message. John. I think he forgets, you see, that she's up here and she causes mayhem. That's Millie scratching her leg. Millie, she's having a lovely scratch, ladies and gents. Honestly, that's what I'm put off by everything. Okay, so we've put right side of our zip to the right side of our backing, and we're now going to stitch those two pieces together. And obviously if you want to, you can clip those together or pin them together, and then we're going to trim. Right, here we go. All the way along like we did before. When we get to the zip slider, and try this, do try this with your zips. Just leave your needle in, make sure your foot is up. I'm not sure mine is up as well as it could be, and then turn it to the side and then slide your zipper underneath, and it is a lot easier than getting it round that long side there, she says. I don't know why it's being a nuisance to me. There we go. There, just make sure. Let's get our needle back in again. Right, here we go. Yeah, so we're doing between 1/4 inch and 3/8 of an inch along this zip. You might want to go a lot smaller than that, you might want to go further away. It really does depend on the sort of finish that you want to do. There is no right or wrong with this type of thing, it really isn't. Right, so I'm just putting my regular foot on, I'm putting my walking foot on as well. It's called a dual feed, but it's like a walking foot. Let me just, we'll have a look from the top here now. Right, now I'm not going to trim anything, I'm not going to neaten anything off. We have to remember what we're making here. We're making a cushion, and what we can do is, if we give this a really good iron, the inside of our fabric will stay back. But the only time you are going to, you know, do you see what I mean by that sort of flaying out? We don't want, a top stitch will help keep the zip down, but all we're going to do is pad it with a cushion, and then we're never going to open it again until we go to clean the cushion case. So I would suggest that you just leave things as they are, okay? But a nice press is a good thing to do at this stage, okay? And that's our zip installed. And as you can see, the zip tabs are a really good size, but we're going to trim all this back after we have stitched the sides together, okay? So I'm going to stitch on the front, because I know the front is absolutely perfect. You know, I cut mine bigger. Now the reason I cut mine bigger is because if you cut exactly the same size as your cushion front, so this was all meeting together, and this is just down to my experience, oftentimes you'll get to finish one of the edges and everything has shifted, it's moved, it's kind of twisted. If you keep your walking foot on, that shouldn't happen, and if you pin it and clip it, it shouldn't happen. But I always err on the side of caution, and every time I do a cushion cover like this, I always do my backing that wee bit bigger, just to give myself a little bit of breathing space. Okay, so the same rules apply, if you like, with our tabs as we would if we were making a pouch. You have to decide whether they're going to go in or out. Now, if I just fold mine together like that, and my zip together, they fold almost naturally in, and that's perfectly fine. If you fold them out, it's a bit more of a struggle, but you might find that that's the best option for you. Okay, but I'm just going to go with the flow of my fabric, and I'm just going to fold them out like that. So the other thing we're going to do is just to just make sure, you see, if you've pressed this you shouldn't have any bother with this moving. Try and get this, if you've done a panel on the back like me, which you probably haven't, just make sure the centre of that is sitting in the centre of your band, and pin, or I wouldn't use clips because your fabric is so delicate. So now what we've got is one side pinned. Do the other side. We're not interested in the top at the moment, so we'll do the other side. So again, I'm folding my raw edges together, and then I'm just, in fact, let's open the zip up before we forget. There we go. So I'm folding my raw edges together, and I'm popping a little pin in there, and then tracking up the side here, just pulling that so it's sitting in the middle, pop a pin in the middle, and at various points, I don't like these big pins from Taylor Seville, I like the little ones better. They're not as sharp, those big ones. I think the quilting pins might be, but these ones, the bigger ones, aren't. Okay, so I'm happy with how that's sitting. Now, because I want this to be a really nicely made cushion, I'm going to stitch the top first. And you might think, oh, that doesn't seem right because you've got to get this right first. Well, we could end up with it twisted. So I'm going to stitch right across here because I know from pinning that is all sitting perfectly aligned. I'm really happy with that. So I'm going to go straight across the top, and then I'll come down the sides towards the zip. Okay, so I shall come down here towards the zip. That's how I will do it. You can do it any way you wish. You may have been taught to do it different ways, but that's how I tend to do it. And actually, I do tend to do my cushions on an overlocker. So 1/4 inch seam allowance, doing a little back stitch, but there's no need. And we're just going to whiz along here. Now, of course, you could have pinned, just make sure everything is lined up. But I'm just going to go. And because all my seams are coming down this way, it's really easy peasy. So now I know that my cushion is square because I've got my fabric all square here. You can see how it looks. And visually it's quite handy that I've made the back bigger. So again, let's just do a couple of back stitches. Okay, and then start again. We've gotten some really nice strong corners now because we've back stitched, and then we're coming down. Just take your time. If you've pinned a million pins, that's absolutely fine. Let's just get those a bit better lined up. Oh, I can smell toast. Somebody's making toast. It wouldn't be Millie. I think he likes to burn it. There we go. So, nearly there, one side. Let's just fold our ends over. And because we've got the tabs, it makes really light work of it. Just make sure, don't get your fingers in the way. Use your stiletto to hold those seams down. You don't want them to twist in any way. Let's take that last pin out. And we'll give it a back stitch. Okay. And then this side, ideally you shouldn't go up, you should always come from the top down, but in this instance I'm going from the bottom up, and it's because of all the seams, because my fabric is a lot slightly bigger as well, but really I wanted to do that so visually it was easy for you to see. So about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I think by this stage perhaps that's not so important to you. If you've achieved this, by golly, you've done, I tell you what, some of those pictures I've seen today, whoa, amazing. And of course you could go around this now with a zigzag. Cushions tend to get a lot of wear and tear, don't they, especially if you've got grandchildren. So you might want to go around with a zigzag to strengthen, or just pop this under your overlocker. And because we haven't got the zip ends anywhere near the edges of the cushion, it means you can use the overlocker, and it's all safe. It's not going to break any needles. So there we are, that's all stitched together now. So I'm just going to stand up and just cut this so it's lovely and neat. And just go over there. Across the top. We look like we've been hit by the tango man. And along here as well. Oh, and I tell you what, Nicola has made a pouch out of her scrap fabric. From the Seminole, so I think she's posting that in the group. I don't know if she's doing it tonight or later, you know, sort of tomorrow or something, but hopefully she's posted it. Okay, so that's all stitched together, and there's the back of it like that, all lovely and neat and tidy. Look, there we are, I see you caught that bit. And if we had stitched on this side instead of this side, then a lot of those seams could well have easily ended up looking like that, which I don't like. I like to have everything neat. So then we're going to turn it through. And of course, because we've got a nice big zip opening there, it was not going to crease up. So look, that's our lovely zip tab there. Beautiful. And if you work at it, you can get it into oh, there's a name for it, but it's like a half a diamond shape, isn't it? I forget the name of it. There's a name. Anyway, so give this a press. Really give it a nice press and give it some love. But be very careful if you're using a tool to push out your corners. Just be gentle. You don't want to put a hole in your corners. After all that work, oh my gosh. Wouldn't it be awful? Yeah, so there's several things you could do differently to me. You could use a fancy zip instead of a plain zip and stitch it on the outside of your cushion. You could top stitch along the edges of your cushion to keep your zip lying flat. You could have a envelope back cushion instead of a zip if you don't like to put zips in. Anyway, there we are. So there's our cushion made. All we need to do now is to put our cushion pad in. Now I've bought a big size pad. I'm not sure, it's a little bit big. I think I might struggle. Let's have a try. So because of the tabs, you've got a little bit of a stronger end to your zips than normal, but still treat it with respect. Just keep pushing it in nicely. This is a feather. I do like a feather cushion, do you? Just so I'm putting an 18-inch pad in here, just so you've got more puffiness. So just work it in, and I'm going to tell you how to get the perfect pointy corners. Oh dear, tickles me every time I think about it. So just make sure your corner of your pad goes into the corner of your cushions. So a bit like a duvet, make sure they sit in there nicely. So that's looking good, but we want to make sure that these are sitting nicely. Do you see how sometimes they go a bit like that? Because you haven't got many feathers or polyfill or whatever it is, not polyfiller, but polyfill in those corners. So get yourself some fibre fill and just fill your corners out. And you'll notice straight away we've completely lost that sort of pleaty look. Let me do it again. And you can do it in the bottom corners as well. So just push be careful of all your stitching and everything. Just push that in there in the corners. Spread it out. And you're just filling that corner out. And that gives you a much better look. Look at that, that's completely different to how it was a minute ago. It could be pushed out in a little bit further actually. Let's give it a little bit more. Just manipulate it, and mine comes right up to here now. I've spread it out a bit, but that gives you a much nicer finish look, guys. Yeah. And don't forget, you can do it in these bottom corners as well. So I won't worry about doing that because you've seen how to do it. But that's a well-known trick. It's not anything I've discovered or made up. Yeah, so you can do these ones if you want. Because there's no pillow in there. There's no feathers or fibre fill. But this feels lovely and squidgy now, and it gives you a lovely finish. There we go. So that is our cushion made. Looks lovely, doesn't it? I'm really pleased with it. And then on the back, it looks lovely with the orange, doesn't it? We've got a yellow zip. It's all going on, but it'll suit Abigail's studio. Actually, it's pink. It won't suit it at all. Anyway, so there is our cushion made. If you have done a larger size cushion and you've already cut your zip, let me quickly show you what you're going to do. Let me get a bit of zippage and a bit of fabric. Let me just cut some bits here, guys. Okay. So I'm only going to do a little bit. I'm not going to waste huge amounts of fabric on this. Right, so if you have, like I said just a second ago, if you have cut your zip to size, so let's imagine that this is you've cut a 15.5 zip because I told you to. I know it's not 15.5, but please use your imagination. But your cushion is a lot bigger. Your cushion is a lot bigger, right? And you don't want tabs that long. It would look funny. It would look really weird. So what I want you to do is this. I'm just going to whiz on the machine a minute. Turn your stitch length up. Pop your two pieces right sides together. I'm only doing stitching, guys, nothing interesting. I'll show you in a sec. I'm doing about this, possibly as much as a 5/8 of a seam allowance here, but go for at least a centimetre. Go for at least a centimetre. So there is my fabric, stitched it right sides together. So this is what I want you to do with yours. If you have cut your zip to size and yours is bigger, so let's just give that a little press. Oh, crikey. Okay, give it a little press. And then what I want you to do is open up your seams like this. So you do need to press it. You do need to press it. And then what you're going to do is, there's your seam, you can see my raw edges, right sides of your zip down, and I want you to line your zip teeth up with the seam, okay? And so whatever width of cushion you've got, this is how you would do it if you've cut your zip, yeah? If you haven't cut it, then you can cut it to size less than an inch. Anyway, let me show you how I'm going to stitch this. So let's quickly get my machine in. So this is just an extra bit really. So I'm not going to bother changing my foot. I'm going to see if I can do it without. So I'm coming up the side of my zip. Let me turn my stitch length down a bit. It won't be brilliant because I'm not using my zipper foot. So along the edge of your zip to about ½ an inch away maybe, turn it around, go over the end of your zip and then come down the other side. If this is, oh, this is not straight, so I've just veered off. I was just about to say if this is straight, I'll eat my hat, but it's not straight because it's just come off the rail, so to speak. ½ an inch away again, and you're just going across the end, okay? I don't even know if I want to show you this. Oh gosh, it's rubbish. Oh, I don't want to show you. I'm going to show you because then you get the idea. But use your zipper foot. I'm embarrassed by that. Anyway, so you'll see how lovely and neat this side was. This side I went right off the rails. But what you're going to do then is put your quick unpick in there, the seam ripper, whatever you decide to call it, and I'll put my thumb there, and then that gives you your zip. Obviously you'll have a zip slider on this, and then your zip is installed, and that's the way to do it. Okay, so that's just an extra bit like that. What do they say? More haste, less speed. Okay, so that is just about 8 o'clock. Well done. So post the pictures of the finish of your cushion finished, and I will post them as many places I can possibly post them to show everybody how wonderful you all are. Right, okay, thank you very much for this lovely 4 days. I hope you've had fun, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you come back for more another time. Night night, and I'll see you all again another day. Bye.